Hello, folks. Good evening, and welcome to our video conferencing session here. Today, we're going to talk about the Close RS case and the IT-related project. Yeah. So, starting with Allison, is there any IT strategies being used by the executives, and who's making the decisions regarding the strategy?
Yes, absolutely. There was a clear IT strategy established for the business case to implement a new state-of-the-art point-of-sale system for the retail stores to increase revenue for the company and improve their sales and reduce their infrastructure and labor costs. The goals that we had established for the business case were, one, to free up the store managers to work inside the store with the customers and the associates instead of being back in their offices. Two, to automate the cash management to include credit and debit at the store level. Third, we wanted to provide always on-network connectivity, allowing real-time push-polling of the store sales and inventory data, employee time reporting, and payroll processing. And lastly, we wanted to allow cross-store inventory checking and reduce credit authorization processing time at the point of sale from 30 to 45 seconds to less than 5 seconds. This overall new system would have provisions for, obviously, what we discussed, point of sale and credit system. It would also have store management suites, the CRM data interface to the corporate CRM application. We would have inventory data interface with corporate inventory legacy system. We would have the extension of corporate emails to the store level. And lastly, we would implement a VoIP at stores and at headquarters.
Thank you. That sounds like a great project. And taking advantage of the infrastructure that they will be implementing to help out on the telephone side also. That's a great idea. Roberto, what is the role of the CIO in this case? What are the critical success factors of the job?
Well, the most important role for the CIO is to provide IT and IS solutions to reduce business costs and regain competitive advantage for the corporation. In this particular situation, the CIO has to lead the POS project team within 12 months time project. As part of the role in this case, the CIO has to assure integration between new and legacy applications. She has to monitor and control the implementation of the project. She has to define the scope of the new systems. She has to conduct regular project updates. Also, she has to discuss and resolve project delays, define and execute contingency plans. She has to manage outsourced services. And also, that is the most important part, is that she has to retain key intellectual capital at the end of the project.
I see. Wow. Those are good key elements needs to be considered, yes. Hey, Carlos, what are the critical decisions that the CIO made or should have made?
Well, something that is worth mentioning is I definitely, from a CFO standpoint, I saw that there was a financial analysis involved, on how it impacted, in potential savings and efficiencies of the company. Another thing is, how instead of making pieces of the application, how we were able to pretty much implement a corporate-wide system. We had a plan for implementation. We had a way of tracking milestones. That's all very important, so it could keep us on track. We were able to have a clear, defined plan, on execution and requirements. One thing that did brought me to, that raised concerns, and that should have been made, is that I saw pretty much that the graphic user interface was being controlled by management, when in fact it was the end users that really needs to be in control of this, this part. And that's something that I was not very fond of it. So that's something that we need to address, for future projects. One of the things that I saw is that the manager, the CIO, was not heavily involved into the project managers. If in this case it would have, we would have been able to see the pitfalls, of the managers. Another thing is that for next time we should definitely have some contracts in place, detailing as to the specifications of the hardware that we definitely need, and also have a backup plan, in case that one of our vendors doesn't, come through. Um, so with that, I'll pass it back to you.
Those are very valid points there, Carlos. Especially the fact that the CIO should be more, I guess, out in the field, working with the end users and find out what they really need to make it a successful project. And of course, the contract negotiation was a good point too, making sure that the hardware has the right software and is delivered accordingly. And also, your point about the backup vendor, just in case somebody like WorldCom, cannot deliver, they should have somebody like AT&T. So those are very good points. Melanie, what are the impacts of the IT decision on the organization structure?
Sorry about that. So the IT decisions are greatly there's several that are greatly impacting the organization structure. But I just wanted to ask Allison if you could possibly clarify who was making the decisions. Absolutely. I mean, as we all know and what we've talked about, Nancy Orland, the CIO, was the one in charge, but she also teamed up with the executive management team along with the product management team, and these two teams made up the groups that would oversee the delivery of the program. Great, thank you, Allison. And I think that's a good, I guess, transition to sort of go into my question that G just targeted, because we as Closer Us did not have significant IT resources or capabilities in-house. So as Allison mentioned, Orland really had to outsource a large consulting firm for a lot of the roles, for project management office, for the applications development, for the infrastructure engineering, the assurance, the testing portion, the technology management and operations during the life cycle of the project, training, and also the initial deployment. So essentially the whole project at different stages of the project had huge dependency on the agency that was hired. The executive management and some of the product managers for the project remained in-house, as well as the operations steering committee, which at the very end ultimately were the decision makers, and would really give the project the green light to sort of move from one stage to the next. In addition, the company lost all of its internal project managers, which I believe Carlos had mentioned of, and that caused even further delays and to the project, and in addition hurt really the progress of the project that had been outlined initially. On a less direct level, if the IT project was really put into action on a full-scale deployment, meaning 400 stores, the ROI is incredible, and it could potentially eliminate employee costs, which again restructures the current organization structure, so that sales positions are taken out. So that's about $20,000 per year in salary and benefits. And the new backstore application would then deliver $11,000 in cost efficiencies per year per store. So gee, I think that the IT decisions on this particular project have huge effects on the organization structure.
Well, thank you, Melanie. Yeah, regarding the internal project managers, I believe the product managers were the ones that have left the company or been asked to resign from the company because they went to basically to the software vendor. But the project managers are outsourced, so I believe the company still has them, although they need to be managed by the IT staff, obviously. But yeah, they are extra resources for the success of this company and its rollout of the project. Dennis, what competencies are necessary in the CIO position to make it a successful implementation?
Well, from what I noticed from the case is that in the case of for clothes are us, the CIO must be seen as a leader rather than someone with just the technical knowledge on IT and infrastructure. Um, the CIO needs to effectively communicate and coordinate with the other teams and the project managers how to execute and also how to deal with inefficiencies or delays. As we have seen in the case, and as Melanie pointed out, and Allison, there were some delays in the process. So you got to be able to communicate effectively with other people that are involved in the planning. But also another thing that I pointed out that Carlos mentioned is that from the case, the CIO needs to be a professional, proficient operational manager when it comes to managing the IT, outsourcing, looking at ways of establishing priorities as to deciding what needs to be done first in the case of uh, hiring another manager to meet the gaps of another. But also another thing that I find important that Melanie mentioned is that the outsourcing. A good manager really needs to understand the power of outsourcing and realize that over time the IT industry is increasing the outsourcing. So you need to become a proficient in negotiating with vendors, negotiating with other IT companies and partners, not only because you want to improve proficiency and save money, but also because you want to be efficient and because you want to meet your goals and your targets without any delays. So those are things that I pointed out that I think they're relevant for the CIO.
Well, great. Those are very good input. And, as a CIO myself, some of the things I'm trying to improve in my career as it relates to education and skill set, um, the programs such as this one, the MBA program, and maybe in the near future, a PhD program in business and IT related fields will definitely benefit my career. And some of the things that you mentioned, the business skills, the ability to manage projects, and the understanding of numbers, and be able to talk to the executive management. Those are all skills that is necessary to be a good CIO, and obviously to understand what's going on out in the field. So you have to be personable and also, of course, be able to communicate. Besides being technical and understand what is necessary in the infrastructure side to make it a successful implementation. The expectation and the requirements for me as a CIO, I don't see anything that is different from this case itself. I see it as a necessity. Those are the skill sets that is required, and I'm pretty sure any CIO out there who are in the day to day will agree. So I appreciate y'all's input, and I thank you very much.
Well, thank you all for participating on this call.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you so much.
Good
All
night.
right. Good night.
Good night.